Good morning or late night, depending on when you're listening. This is the DFS Early Bird, Dave Lockman and Adam Shaw, bringing you a Wednesday edition of, well, a whole lot of games. Just a lot of games. Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so to mitigate any schedule quirks, being that the NBA never schedules any games on Thanksgiving, we've got 13 on Wednesday and 14 on Friday, Adam.
Yeah, it should make for a couple of fun days of analysis sandwiched around Thanksgiving, I guess.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're not going to try and take up your whole morning. We're going to try and do what we can, give you a preliminary look, a little foundational look, and then you'll have the deeper dive, live before lock, the projections, ownership, everything on awesemo.com, and, of course, streaming on YouTube throughout the day. The only thing I will point out before we get into all of this, Adam, is that Kawhi Leonard looks like he's not going to play on the second of back-to-back. Draymond Green is out. Jeremy Grant, Nerlens Noel, Alex Abrinas, all questionable for Oklahoma City. Dwight Powell, questionable. Wes Matthews is out. J.J. Barea, Dennis Smith Jr. are also questionable. Davis Bertans, Pau Gasol are questionable and out, respectively. Anything else? Anything else I'm seeing here? I'm missing?
Oladipo, I think, still questionable.
Yes. Yeah, Oladipo.
Yeah.
And then you got guys like Spellman and Anunoby and stuff. But and Miles Turner is also questionable. Okay, now that we have all of that out of the way, let's just jump into it. 13 games to talk about here. Point guard position. What jumps out to you?
Kyle Lowry, for one. I mean, assuming he plays the second half of the back-to-back, he was obviously questionable yesterday, but we see just such a big jump in usage for him whenever Kawhi Leonard's out. And then this is obviously a good spot, pace-up spot going into Atlanta. So I like Kyle Lowry quite a bit. Dame Lillard, obviously, a nice price tag. Plenty of upside there. Same for Russell Westbrook. But Lowry's really the one at the top that stands out.
Yeah, I like Lowry quite a bit. You have to with Kawhi Leonard out. It's really that simple. Those guys at the top, Ben Simmons has looked a lot better recently over the last couple games. It looks like he might finally be figuring out his role with Jimmy Butler there. And he's had two really solid games, coming an assist shy of a triple-double in back-to-back games. And his point totals, if you've noticed, Adam, his point totals have been up. So maybe I wasn't wrong about Ben Simmons with Jimmy Butler in town.
Yeah, we've seen the usage for him trending back up towards where it was for the whole season. And now, since Butler joined the team in their playing time alongside each other, Simmons is up to about 1.05 fantasy points per minute. So he is moving in the right direction. The price tag has come down a little bit. Still not sure that I can prioritize him on a relatively deep slate at the guard positions, but certainly playing better than he was those first couple of games.
Yeah, definitely don't think he's a priority, but a guy that we should be tracking here for sure. Russell Westbrook on the road against the Golden State Warriors. We've got a 1-point spread. Warriors are only 1-point favorites at home, Adam, with all of these injuries. Obviously, Stephen Curry's still out, a 225.5 total. Do we go back to the well or do we go to the well with Russell Westbrook here?
It's nothing I'm opposed to. It's just that the position's so deep. I think that there are a lot of guys to pay up for on this slate. I'm not sure that I want to do it at this position where, you can save $2,500 going to Kyle Lowry. You have Luka Doncic and De'Aaron Fox still underpriced in that mid-range. It just feels like there's opportunity cost at this position, whereas you have a bunch of studs at like the small forward position. We always know you can pay at the center position. So I'm not sure that I'm going to be prioritizing Westbrook over some of those other guys.
I don't think I am either. His price has come up. If he was like 10-2 still, I think I'd be on board. He's 10-7 on DraftKings. I don't think it's a bad price. If this game stays close, there's a good shot that he gives you huge numbers here. And with no Curry, with no Draymond Green, I expect this game to stay close. But, just throwing this out there, and then we'll move on to some value. You have Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James, all of them priced above 10K on DraftKings. It's insane. And then Kemba Walker and Jokic at 9.8 and 9.7 respectively.
Yeah, exactly. Just so many different ways you can go here. I do assume that we'll end up with plenty of value. There's 13 games. It's going to happen, and it'll open the door for us to be able to get up to these guys. But it's you're going to have to pick and choose where you want to go. And at least as of right now, point guard doesn't stand out to me as the position where I'm looking to pay all the way up.
I agree. Well, we'll move on here. I will say, De'Aaron Fox, I still have interest. I know he let a lot of people down the other day, Adam, but I still see him being too cheap. This is not a Utah team that defensively has been as stout as they generally are. And pretty much on a site like this, everyone is going to be completely off of De'Aaron Fox after that awful 1 for 10 shooting performance. But Utah really, their backcourt defense has been actually below average this year. So I'm not opposed to De'Aaron Fox. Are there any cheap guys that you like at point guard before we move on?
Well, I'm with you there on Fox. I mentioned Luka Doncic I like as well. Your boy Collin Sexton, though, sitting at 5,400 on DraftKings in a really nice spot against the Lakers, still playing huge minutes and still relatively inexpensive. I think that, he's a pretty interesting play.
Yeah, and he keeps, last game he only played 24 minutes. Is there any reason for that? Was that game washed out from the beginning with a blowout?
If I remember correctly, yeah, I'm pulling it up on.
I think he got hurt. He got hurt.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, a hip injury.
He doesn't have a tag for today, though, I don't think.
He does on DraftKings.
Oh, okay. I didn't see one where I was looking.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see if any other sites have him. No, some sites don't. DraftKings does. Well, that's worth keeping an eye on for sure.
Yeah. If he plays, I like him. I mean, he played – what did he play in the first half of that one? Like 9 – he got like 15, 16 minutes in the first half there. So was still on track to play, 30 to 32 minutes.
I think he got injured, left, came back, toughed it out, came back off the court. So, one of those games. But if he doesn't play, by the way, Jordan Clarkson is another guy that would definitely benefit from it against the Lakers backcourt that does not frighten you at all.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right. Anyone else here?
I don't think so. Nothing really that, stands out to me right now. If one of Barea or Dennis Smith Jr. miss, then it obviously it's a boost for the other, especially if it's Barea that's out, because we know that Dallas isn't going to run Barea out there for a ton of minutes, even if Smith's out. But if Barea is out, it just solidifies those minutes for Dennis Smith Jr.
All right, let's talk shooting guard. And again, we're going to hit on all of what we think are the important points here. Obviously not going to be able to get to everything, but this is just giving you a first look at what's definitely going to be an extensive research slate. It's going to take a whole lot more time than a 25-minute podcast. Shooting guard, Adam, let's get back into it. You have Gordon Hayward eligible here. His price has come down to $5,500, but he was also moved to the bench in favor of Aaron Baines. At the top, though, you've got, of course, James Harden against Detroit in the home matchup, a game that Houston's favored by 8.5 points. Oladipo's questionable. He's 9,100. Him and Kemba should go at it if that's the case. And then Zach LaVine, sub 8K against Phoenix. I like Booker and LaVine in this game, man.
Yeah, so do I. Love LaVine. I mean, he's someone that you and I have both been on pretty much all season long, because where he's priced down, it's just such a safe play that comes with a really high ceiling too when his shots happen to go in. So, and he's playing, a poor defense in Phoenix. So I like him a lot. Booker, assuming he gets to start at point guard again, his price jumped pretty quickly, but I think that he's just much more valuable when he gets those point guard minutes, because even though we know he had the ball in his hands anyway, it just puts the ball in his hands even more. Going back to last season when he's been the point guard, he has a 44% assist percentage. He has a usage rate up around 34%. So he basically just becomes the entire offense. We saw that against Philadelphia, and this is obviously a great spot against Chicago. So those two guys plus Drew Holiday going against Philadelphia without Elfrid Payton, those three guys all just really stand out to me at this position.
Do you have any interest in Donnie Mitchell at 72 against Sacramento, or DeMar DeRozan, whose price tag has come down to 8,400 and has clearly not given the same upside that we saw earlier this season, but we know he's capable of it. He still has a high floor, but it's not an easy matchup.
Yeah, more so in Mitchell than DeRozan. It's not even that I have an issue with DeRozan at that price so much as I would just so much rather play LaVine or Holiday or Booker than DeRozan. But Mitchell, you get kind of into a different price group, and it is a nice pace-up spot for Utah going against Sacramento. Mitchell, we know that he's scoring dependent, but he also will chuck up his shots. So I think it's a really fair price tag on Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, so do I. But I think you made some good points. Like, Zach LaVine is still underpriced here in a really good spot. If Booker starts at the point, there's no way we're not targeting him. I know he's expensive. He'll probably, not have as much exposure as we would have in the event that he was still, what was he, 77 the other day?
Yes,
something absurd.
7,700, 10% owned. It was a fun night.
I have no idea how he was 10% owned. I mean, that's why there is still an edge. If you play every day, that's why you're not going to win every night, but there's still an edge when people aren't playing Devin Booker against the Philly team. They get afraid of Jimmy Butler and they ignore that Kemba Walker just dropped 60 on him the other day. And that opposing shooting guards have beat them up quite a bit. I think it's just the scheme, man. The Sixers team allows a lot of points not a lot of points. They allow a lot of points to individual players, right? Like the best player from the opposing team has seen to have really good success, whether it's Mitchell or Kemba or Vucevic, or you know what I mean? It just has been very strange in that regard this year. They don't really spread it out. It all gets funneled to one player, and if you get that player right, you're in pretty good shape. That player probably not going to be Drew Holiday, but he's facing Philly in Philly today with this Pelicans and Sixers game having a 235 total. Philly 3.5-point favorites at home.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Drew here. I still like the price tag for him. He's 8,100 on DraftKings. He should play, 36 to 38 minutes, assuming this game stays competitive. And he just gets such a boost without Elfrid Payton out there. He's, a 25 to 26% usage rate guy, but that assist percentage jumps up close to 40% when he's playing without Elfrid on the floor. So I think he's just a guy that gives you a really high floor because of the minutes that he plays, but he also has the potential to go out there and drop 55 fantasy points.
For sure. And one more guy that, similar to Simmons, I'm not saying you have to play him, but someone that you and I have been tracking recently since LeVert went down. D'Angelo Russell played another 32 minutes yesterday, had 20 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, and a block across 32 minutes. So he's still there. And if he's going to play 32 minutes a night, I'm not opposed to paying a low 7K price point for him going forward.
No, I mean, I agree with you. Without LeVert on the floor this season, his usage rate has been down a little bit. But since the start of last season, you're talking about a guy with a 29% usage rate and close to a 40% assist percentage without Karis LeVert out there. Plus, he gets a minutes bump. So, it's tough to prioritize him at this position on this slate. But I have no issue with it if you can't quite get up to the, Devin Booker, Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine range.
Any value here? Are you interested in Gordon Hayward? Will you be looking at DeLon Wright, especially we don't think Kawhi is playing, but if Miles and Anunoby are out, he's probably going to see a boatload of minutes. Anybody I haven't mentioned we can talk about and then move to small forward.
Yeah, if Miles and Anunoby are out again, I think you have to keep looking at Fred VanVleet and DeLon Wright. From what I had seen on Twitter earlier, it sounded like at least CJ Miles was going to be back. I didn't really see anything on Anunoby, and I think he's the bigger piece. But if they're missing pieces there, like you're gonna have Danny Green slide down, it opens up a bunch of minutes for VanVleet and for DeLon, right?
Yeah, I'll likely have quite a bit of both. Or Miles, according to Nick Nurse, he said he's optimistic that he'll be able to play. Also optimistic that Anunoby will be able to play, but that doesn't really mean much. We'll have. I
think he said the same thing before yesterday's games too.
I think he did. So it's really tough. Are you even interested in Gordon Hayward right now? Because he came off the bench. This Boston team is struggling right now. He still played 31 minutes off the bench, but he shot 1 for 6 and 3 for 7 and 4 for 8 and 4 for 12 and 3 for 7 and 3 for 9. I mean, this guy, he's not shooting right now. I know people are like hoping for that big game, and I was one of them a couple weeks back, but I think I'm just going to pump the brakes and wait till he starts getting back to his old form, because he is not in his previous form at all right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn on it because normally I hate that line of thinking. Like I want him the day that he, starts making his shots, but it's just such a special case here where he might never get back to where he was, but it's certainly reasonable to think that it at least takes some time for him to get back to, the player he used to be. And the price tag's fair. And I think he is the best value in that price range, but it's not, I guess the easiest way to put it is it's not like I'm looking at it like, $5,500 Gordon Hayward, I need to prioritize him over these other guys we talked about. If I end up in that price range, he's the guy that I'm most interested in, but I still would like to get up to the guys towards the top.
Right. And it's clear. It's absolutely a reasonable point. You don't want to be the one that waits until the big game and then plays him after. But I think what I'm saying with Hayward, it's not that I'm worried about him finally making his shots. He's not taking them either. And that's my biggest concern. It seems like he has no confidence right now. And I'm not trying to get into the guy's head, but 7-8 shots is tough. And one of the issues before the season started with Boston, Adam, was, a lot of people asked, are there going to be enough shots to go around between a healthy Kyrie Irving, between Tatum, between Hayward and Al Horford, hell, even Marcus Morris and Terry Rozier, who clearly we saw some cryptic tweets the other day. He said it wasn't about wanting to be traded, but who knows? There's a lot of bodies on that team, and in my opinion, the only one that's been consistently reliable is Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, I mean, right there with you. If you just look at the season, Gordon Hayward has an 18% usage rate this year, and we're seeing Kyrie Irving trend, in a positive direction as far as his usage goes, just chucking up even more shots now. So I think that it makes sense. I mean, you've seen Gordon Hayward kind of just move into a secondary role, and I think it just makes sense given the injury that he's coming back from. It makes sense to ease him in when you can on a team that's this good and has this many good players.
Yep, he averaged around 26.5% usage over his last 3 seasons with Utah. So that gives you an idea of what should be expected, but not on this team. All right, anything else here, or should we move it to small forward?
I think that's it from shooting guard. Oh, Jeremy Lamb, I think, is still a good play.
Yeah, Lamb's been pretty consistent, which is funny because Lamb's generally never consistent, but getting decent numbers from him. It's tough at that price point on this slate for me, but it's also not a matchup that I fear all that much. At small forward, we got to talk about Giannis first. Now, I talked the other day about how Embiid has actually been the most consistent high-end guy this season. I guess you could throw AD in there too, but I ended up I had Embiid as my guy the other day. I didn't MME. I played one lineup across all contests, and I said, screw it. I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid, and I got my 62.5 fantasy points, and I was okay with that. Giannis certainly wasn't bad. That type of game for anybody else not named Giannis Antetokounmpo or Embiid or Davis, of course, would have been fine. But 39 minutes, he shot 25 times. Yeah, he had 56 fantasy points, but it's strange. He hasn't been able recently to put all of it together, like the blocks and the steals and the points and the rebounds and the assists. What's given him that 70, 80 fantasy point upside? I'm sure it's right around the corner. He clearly didn't lose it. He's still shooting a lot, but he hasn't been able to put all of that together in a game recently. And I think that has a lot to do with why we haven't seen that monster performance from him outside of that one against the Clippers in quite a while.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you. It's not that the ability, that ceiling isn't still there. The problem that I have on this particular slate is that you have, obviously a lot of expensive guys, as we've already mentioned, but even just looking at this position where you have Kevin Durant and LeBron James priced around him, you have Kevin Durant playing against Oklahoma City without Steph Curry or Draymond Green. So obviously you get the boost in production there without even going down, narrative street. And then you have LeBron without Rajon Rondo, which gives him a boost for all of his minutes with the second unit, playing in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Again, neither of us are ones to go down to get too bogged down in narratives, but I think this is one that most people.
Yeah, we got to talk about this.
Right. Exactly. So it's already, even without factoring in the teams that LeBron and Durant are facing, they are both in situations currently that put them in a more productive situation than they normally would be. Whereas Giannis is status quo, and he's priced for what he does. So I think that it just makes Durant and LeBron a little bit more appealing for me.
Yeah, I'm with you here. LeBron is very expensive, but it's going to be tough to get away from him entirely. The only issue I have with LeBron, as we're talking small forwards, is that I fear that the Lakers come out and just beat the piss out of Cleveland and LeBron plays 26 minutes. Like, it's a very realistic possibility. Yeah,
it's entirely possible. I mean, and my bigger issue is that, looking at DraftKings pricing right now, he's $1,000 more than Kevin Durant. And
it's crazy.
I know Kevin Durant has sucked lately, but just look at what the guy's still like the opportunity he still has. In that game against the Spurs, he only had 54 fantasy points. He shot 8 for 25 from the field and got to the line 10 times. He had a 39.6% usage rate. The game before that against Dallas, he only had 41 fantasy points, but he had a 37.5% usage rate. He obviously gets the boost without Draymond Green. He gets a boost in the assist department. Without Curry, of course, he gets the boost in usage. So I still just think that Durant's underpriced. He's had 3 bad games and 1 disappointing game in a row. Really just hasn't been good at all outside of a couple of games, but the opportunity is still there, and the price tag factors in how poor he's played.
Yeah, and in 3 or 4 of those games, he's still taken 23 or more shots.
Right. Yeah, and it's a difficult matchup. I mean, there are certainly arguments you can make against Durant and make for LeBron or even make for Giannis. But when you talk about Durant being the cheapest out of that group, I think that he's got the same ceiling.
I'm with you. And also, I know it's a different position, but Joel Embiid's 800 cheaper than LeBron too. And again, he's just been wildly consistent. So I keep him in the mix as well.
Yeah, actually, I looked when I looked at Simmons and Butler on the floor together, and it's a smaller sample size, like 87 minutes or something for Embiid, but he actually has like a 34.5% usage rate with those two on the floor, and then obviously it's even higher in those other minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, I've watched every single game since Butler came to town. Embiid has not relinquished his control over this team even remotely. That is just not a concern. It's not a concern, not even remotely. And I don't think you can make that argument whatsoever. He's taken 20 shots or more in every game that Butler has played. So we should probably put that one to bed. Okay. Anything else? Actually, there is more at small forward. We just talked about all the expensive guys because there's 100 of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you still have TJ Warren in a good matchup against the Bulls. He played 39 minutes again in Phoenix's most recent game against the Sixers.
He's been awesome lately, by the way. He's been like the most consistent player on this team recently.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously is second fiddle as far as scoring goes to Devin Booker. But if you're going to play that many minutes and you get this favorable matchup against Chicago, that's really appealing. You have, Jabari Parker.
A night almost 40 minutes, almost 40 minutes a night recently. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Ariza came back to the lineup, and Ariza got his 41 minutes. You still got 40 or 39 from Warren. So, and
that was with Bridges starting.
Yeah, exactly. He's really solidified that role. He's playing really well. So, I like him, and you can also look to Ariza as basically the discount value option here because he's obviously not as high upside a play as TJ Warren is, but he's still playing close to 40 minutes a night, and he's only $5,100. So I think either one of those guys, but then also Bridges, like he's $4,000. He only played 23 minutes against Philadelphia, but he picked up 2 fouls in his first 4 minutes. He picked up a third foul to start the second quarter. So he really missed out on playing time. I think that you, in all likelihood, get about 30 minutes for $4,000 for Bridges here too.
Do you have any interest in Chetty? I know he isn't exactly blowing the roof off stadiums, but he played 30 minutes last game. He's 4,300. He's facing the Lakers. Any interest here at all?
Yeah. I mean, 30 minutes against the Lakers. He's so cheap that I missed him when I was scrolling through the first time because I just wasn't expecting him to be that inexpensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, obviously blowout risk, but you know what? That just comes with the territory. So, if he plays for Cleveland, you're not going to find many games where we're not saying there's blowout risk.
Right.
It's going to come with every single game they play, unless they're facing Atlanta. Okay, small forward or power forward, powering through this. Of course, the deep dive, the deeper dive, the projections, live before lock, you name it, and of course the strategy show. You and Josh are doing the strategy show at 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, that should be a nice 4-hour long show.
Yeah, dude, that's going to be rough. That's going to be rough. I might actually submit my article before you guys are off the stream.
There's probably even odds on which one of those ends up getting done first.
All right, power forward. We talked Giannis already. We talked LeBron. And like you said, dude, we're not big narrative guys whatsoever. But with a guy like LeBron who is so ball dominant facing Cleveland in Cleveland, yeah, we're going to at least talk about that. And we did. And he's super expensive. I think he's a bit too expensive given he's the most expensive player on the entire slate. But he's there for the taking if you want to pay a premium for him. What about Anthony Davis? Because I love Davis here, by the way. I think he crushes Philly.
Yeah, I really like Davis a lot too. I think that I would put him – it's so close between him and LeBron. I think I would like him a little bit more than LeBron. Yeah, it's splitting hairs. I do like the spot for Davis, though. It'll probably really depend on if I end up with Drew Holiday in my lineup or not. If I get Holiday in there, I probably don't feel the need to pay up for Anthony Davis from that same team. But if I don't have Holiday, then I would love to have Davis.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned the best players on teams are having the biggest games against the Sixers. Doesn't really matter what position you are. Blake Griffin's a power forward, and he went out and dropped a monster game against the Sixers, 38-16-6, 38-13-6. You could pick a position, and I could give you a few guys this season that are the best player on their team that had huge games against Philly, and I expect this one to stay close. I also expect him to get some center minutes where the Sixers have really struggled defensively this year. That's why I like him. And I think this game's competitive. It also, of all the games on this slate, Adam has the highest total. Actually, it's the only one with a point total above 226. It's at 235. So it's far and away expected to be the highest scoring game on this slate.
Yeah, for sure. I think, obviously should be a lot of points here. New Orleans has struggled defensively. They play fast. Philadelphia, as you've mentioned, has had their issues at times as well. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to like here.
Yeah, two teams playing in the in top 10 pace. Pelicans third fastest, Sixers seventh. They've moved on up recently. What about the mid-range here?
Yeah, I mean, you have Blake going against Houston, obviously a nice spot. Still, kind of expensive relative to other guys, but scrolling down, Rudy Gay against Memphis at 5,300. I think that it's obviously a difficult spot, but you should get around 30 minutes from him. He disappointed against the Pelicans in their last game, but still got up. I think it was 18 shots. He only made like 6 of them, but nothing.
Yeah, Dante Cunningham was doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah. 7 for 7 from the field, 5 for 5 from 3.
Ridiculous. I want to know where you're at on Siakam, because we don't expect Leonard to play. You might see another one of the forwards out. He's playing big minutes anyway, very productive. Yeah. What do you make of him now that his price is up?
Yeah, actually, great spot too. I mean, should get as many minutes as he can handle, especially if Anunoby's out. So, 34 to 36 minutes against Atlanta. He's handling the ball a decent amount too. I mean, the assists are there, rebounds are there. His usage goes up without Kawhi. So yeah, I think that out of like the sub 7K guys, he's the one that stands out the most.
Yeah, I mean, I also think Mirotic is a fine play. He's 6,900 on DraftKings. I mean, that's another pretty reasonable price point, and this is a game that I suspect I'll be targeting pretty heavily too.
Yeah, I think the price point's nice. I've been backing off of Mirotic a little bit just because we've been seeing his usage really plummet.
Davis has taken it away, as he should be.
Right, yeah.
Mirotic was siphoning a bunch away from Davis early in the season. It was kind of frustrating, actually.
Yeah, it was one of like the biggest discrepancies between last season and this season, where if you looked at, Mirotic once he had joined the Pels last year alongside Holiday and Davis, he had like an 18% usage rate. And then this year he was at like 24%. But we're finally seeing that even back out. But the rebounds are still there. The, around 30 minutes are still there, and the price tag is getting back to where it really should be.
Yep. You got any love for some of these cheap guys, or is there nothing much here? Because I'm not seeing a whole lot below that 5K range at all.
Yeah, below 5K, it thins out. I do think that Larry Nance at 5,600 is appealing. He was on pace for an 18-minute first half if it weren't for foul trouble in that last game. So it was nice to see him keep getting minutes at the 4. If that's going to happen, obviously he'll be underpriced. Bagley's got a tough matchup, but it does seem like they're giving him that they're ready to kind of hand things over to him. He didn't really get center minutes last game because Harry Giles made his way back into the rotation, but we saw Bjelica only play 23 minutes. He didn't play any minutes in the fourth quarter. Bagley ended up hitting about 26 minutes. So I don't hate Bagley. I don't have a problem with Derek Favors, but not overly excited about either one either.
Last guy I'll throw out here, and you were right about his minutes trending back upwards, even with JaMychal Green back. Jaren Jackson, man, 36 minutes last game. Hey, you know me. If I can trust that he's going to get 30 plus minutes, assuming he's not in foul trouble, which is obviously an issue, I'm playing Jaren Jackson. This dude's racking up blocks at a ridiculous clip, 2 per game, 1.5 steals almost per game. He's a decent rebounder. He's a good scorer. And San Antonio's defense just doesn't scare me. So I still have some interest in him. He's a tournament-only play, but Jaren Jackson's been impressive enough when he gets the run and he produces in an assortment of categories. Those are the guys I love to target at these positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess one other guy that we have to point out, assuming the lineup stays the same, is Noah Vonleh's 4,100 against Boston. Played a ton of minutes last night against Portland. Yeah, jump back into the starting lineup, doubled. Hopefully
everyone played him yesterday, by the way, because that was just
I swapped off him. It cost me. I swapped off of him after lock actually on DraftKings.
You were all over him. How the hell did you do that?
Because I had Hazonia and Cantor also, and I didn't want all 3. Oh. And so that cost me a few $1,000s. It was a lot of fun, but he went out, he played great, he doubled, played huge minutes, and he's still 4,100. So assuming he's still in the starting lineup, I think that he's a strong value option.
All right, let's close it out at center. What do we got here at the top?
Your boy, Joel Embiid.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a million ways to go on the slate, but 10-8 for Embiid is a perfectly fine price point. It's a perfectly fine matchup for him. The usage has been insane. He's still getting those minutes without Simmons or Butler on the floor as well, where he should just absolutely dominate against the likes of Julius Randle and, he's averaging like 1.6 points per minute there. So I think you have to like that. Karl Anthony Towns for a couple $1,000s less.
He's cheap.
Obviously, yeah, just been a monster without Jimmy Butler. And then even Nikola Jokic, he's 9,700, kind of a dead zone in price tag, I think, right between Towns and Embiid. But in tournaments, that should keep his ownership down. And he's been more aggressive offensively. He's a phenomenal passer. It's a really good spot for him as well.
I love this matchup. I don't care if Towns has been better with Butler out. It's not like his defense has been superb.
Right.
I just love targeting bigs against Minnesota. DeAndre Jordan saw a bounce back performance in an unlikely spot against Memphis. Now he gets Brooklyn playing their second of a back-to-back. Whiteside just 20-20'd him. I think DeAndre Jordan's also a pretty decent cash option here.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Center's just stacked. Gobert 7,800. Wendell Carter.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I love the spot for Carter. I like it for DeAndre Ayton as well. But, for Carter, 5,500. His minutes, I think, have just been artificially low lately. So I like him. Yusuf Nurkic is 6,700 against Milwaukee. People just don't play the guy. He's pretty locked in the minutes right now. And he was like 14% owned last night on a 4-game slate. Went out, threw up another double-double. It's another good spot for him here.
Bunch of blocks and steals. By the way, Ayton was in foul trouble last game because he faced Joel Embiid, and he had 5 fouls pretty early in that fourth quarter. So that's what happens when you face Joel Embiid. You get in foul trouble. This is just a stacked position. There's no way we're going to get to every single player. Is there any value here? I'll tell you right now, though, I don't see the need to go too cheap. I think that might get you into some trouble with how deep it is from 6K up. I'll throw Wendell Carter Jr. in there, 5.5 and up, even though I worry about his minutes a bit.
Yeah, Wendell Carter Jr. would be the one that really stands out to me, just because I think he has lost minutes as a result mostly of the scoreboard and foul trouble lately. So I'm not too concerned about that as long as this game stays competitive.
All right, that'll do it for us. 13 games, day before Thanksgiving. This has been the DFS Early Bird. For those of you that don't stick around for all of the other content, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And if you do plan on it, of course, check out the deep dive, check out the deeper dive, check out all the content. And if you want to get an inside look at awesemo.com, AWESEMO.com, you want premium content, everything behind paywall, free for an entire week, just go to the homepage, hit the Join Now button, and use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, to sign up, and you will be granted access full week, even Slack chat as well. That'll do it for us. We will see you back here after Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. We'll catch you back here on Fridays, Early Bird.